And we're live, and there's nobody here yet, but that's okay. We will get there. This thing should be mirror reversed. I'm not sure why it isn't. It must be just the way I'm looking at it. But yeah. So we'll see how we go. Got a whole bunch of DVD and Blu-ray box sets here, which I'm going to be using to show you the kind of stuff I like outside what I've already put onto the channel. And yeah, it's, what is it, 7 o'clock in the morning now. It's still dark outside. I've had a bit of coffee. I've got another cup here in my wonderful Code Black mug. So most of the people who are going to be watching this, it's summer where you are, which is kind of weird for the middle of the year. But here it's winter. We've kind of slightly got out of lockdown, and we can go 25 kilometres away. You still have to wear a mask outside for a little bit here in Victoria, but we're getting there. We'll be unlocking probably Thursday, and I'll be able to do a bit of travel, which I'm looking forward to, because part of my mental health stuff is to go on country drives, and yeah, I am hanging out to do that. Oh, hi, Emmy. Yeah, morning. Yeah, things here are cold. Let's just put it that way. They're cold. And so, yeah, I've got a whole bunch of Blu-rays and box sets. I've got a little bit of a movie haul. I haven't bought that much lately, but I've got a bit of a movie haul. And I've also got the actor of the month, actor of the week, a really fine character actor who is underrated, I think, and who really had an interesting career and was an interesting guy. So, ME, what's it like where you are? Let's try to do a little bit of chat here. Okay, welcome to live chat. It says up here, they give us these things to help us out in YouTube. It says, welcome to live chat. Remember to guard your privacy and abide by our community guidelines, which means I'm not allowed to say anything kind of too four-letter wordy at people who come and visit the channel, though I have been trolled a bit lately, which is kind of interesting. People who disagree with me politically can be quite ad hominem in their attacks. And that makes things even more weird. So I spent a little bit of time after I've uploaded a video. I spent a few hours over the subsequent day just going through comments and commenting on some and liking most of the comments. And also I spend maybe 8 or 10 in any particular video are comments that really shouldn't be on the channel, and I kind of end up deleting those. But there are some nasty bastards out there. Hi, John. Yeah, how are things in Ireland, mate? You got the G7 next door in Cornwall, so yeah. Testing the cough button. Let me know if the cough button worked. Hope everybody's got a cup of coffee. Cheers. Yeah, so I'm going to be going through a bunch of DVDs and Blu-rays that in box sets that I've got and that I really like. I also found these when I was digging through the treasures of the man cave. By the way, all this is going to be renovated at some stage. I'm putting a big long desk down along this wall and another one across the back wall, and that's going to be my main work area. So you'll see a lot of changes in the next couple of months, maybe. I'm going to have to hit IKEA and get a big long desk for that. I go to 23. Greetings from Kentucky. It's summer here. Warm and overcast with occasional rain. I've been to Kentucky. I've been to Louisville. Really nice place, really nice people. And I spent a weekend in Louisville once upon a time and really enjoyed it. So anyway, I was going to talk about these postcards that I found from our Japan trip. Check this out. A Godzilla versus Rodan postcard that I picked up in Tokyo. Really love it. Hi, Marcus. How you doing? And I also got one from, I think it's a Gamera postcard. So I've got that one as well. I'm going to have to frame these things because they really are groovy little postcards. It's amazing. I just keep digging things out of the man cave that I forgot I had. And yeah, it's there's so much movie treasure around here. It's just crazy. One of the things I'm going to do in the future, and let me know if this is of interest to anybody. I've got a whole bunch of daybill movie posters, which are an odd Australian format of movie poster. They're 13 inches wide and 30 inches long. And I picked up a whole bunch of them over the last decade or so. They're starting to become a little more expensive, but they really are interesting, and they've got a kind of naive artwork style to many of these daybill postcards, daybill movie posters. So I'm going to do a video where I kind of talk about those and trying to work out the best way to display them for shooting the video. Yeah, hi Anthony, how you doing, Alabama? And yeah, so and Marcus in Scotland. Wow, getting a lot of international stuff here. Yeah, the monster cards, definitely display them all. Yeah, I'm going to. Hi Grant. Yeah, I'm going to display the postcards. I've got a few different things from Japan. I've got a lot of gacha toys that were kind of rare. You know, little ones you get in the capsules in the machines, are about that big. I've got a whole bunch of gacha toys that I want to display as well. They're really lovely things, but they're kind of, because they're so small and because shelf space limited, I kind of had some trouble there. Jade Trim says, watched Rats last night. They were a favourite film. I was going to ask your opinion, and now I can't remember what it was. The Price of Being Old. Okay, so I thought you were talking about the film Rats, which is kind of an interesting one. Hey, Paul. Yeah, how's things in Manchester, mate? Always like a good working class town. My grandparents were from York, on the dodgy side of the family, and the others were Welsh. So yeah, there we go. Yeah. So like I said, I'm going to do a whole bunch of box sets here. Do you want me to do the box sets in a big lump, or do you want me to show one and then have a bit of chat about stuff for a little bit and then show another one? What do you guys reckon? And I'll wait for that to go through the wonders of the internet. By the way, this is my my largest sweater. Retired, not my problem anymore. I thought I have a bit of attitude with it. I kind of retired from normal working, but I'm trying to turn YouTube into a bit of a career and a job. And with the number of subscribers, it's actually going quite well at the moment. I'm quite pleased by it. And thank you very much to everybody who subscribes and supports the channel. John says one at a time will be, and then I kind of says one at a time, then talk about it. Yeah, I think I'll go that way. So we'll start off. Let me have a look, because I grabbed these out of the back room, which is where all of the DVDs and Blu-rays are stored. So I'll do these ones first because they're kind of interesting. And sorry if I lean out of shot for a moment. Yeah, these are the ones I want first. So there's an Australian company who puts out a whole bunch of really... Yeah, hey Lee, how you doing? One at a time's easier to follow, absolutely. These come from Umbrella Entertainment, which is an Australian company that puts out some really interesting product. They put out particularly Australian things that wouldn't otherwise get a distribution. And my friend Morris Brzezinski put me onto these. And I've got 3 of these, and I want to get the rest of them when I kind of figure it all out. They're called Drive-In Delirium. This particular set, these have got 4 discs in them. And what they are is trailers. There are a whole bunch of movie trailers for different movies. I've got volume 1, and of course, this is the problem. I've only got a few volumes of them. So this one's got things like Trouble Man, Ilsa She-Wolf of the SS, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Big Birdcage Maniac. It's just endless hours of movie trailers, and I kind of like that because occasionally I'll find things that I haven't watched or that I haven't seen for a long time, and I'll try to find a copy of them. But I'm addicted to just sitting down and watching these movie trailer compilations. There's this one, which is the first volume. Grant says, worst anime live action Ghost in the Shell with Scarlett Johansson. I've seen worse anime, but it involved tentacles and young ladies. But here's volume 3, which is Retro Rampage. It's got the young playmates, the Dunwich Horror, Twins of Evil, Dracula Has Risen from the Grave. These are a little hard to find, but you can find them around if you look around. And like I said, I'm addicted to them. They're just a lot of fun. The interface they have on them in the menus is kind of fun. And the most recent one I've got, it's actually on Blu-ray, is Drive-In Delirium, the new batch, which has got a lot of late era Charles Bronson trailers. It's got the green slime. It's got a whole bunch of westerns as well. They're just a lot of fun to play with and just have on while you're doing other things. If I'm writing a script for the channel or something like that, you can whack one of these on and just kind of have it as background ambience. So there's the three. Anybody else like trailer compilations? Because they are a little bit of an oddity, but I do enjoy them. Let me work out where I'm going to put these. I'll put them down there. They're a little bit of an oddity, but I really enjoy watching them and using them as a way of kind of list picking. So I'll get a list of things from the trailers and then I'll watch them. Joe Trim says, remember the film 1950s Gun Crazy? Yeah, Gun Crazy is good. Pigmeat Markham says, Teak, I thought you were dead. Yeah, Teak, I'm not sure what that means, whether it's a movie title. Grant says 10 to Midnight with Bronson was fun. Yeah, it was. I watched so many of those in the 1970s. It was just crazy. Trailers from Hell YouTube channel. Yeah, absolutely. Locoda 23. Yeah, Trailers from Hell I like a lot. Larry Karaszewski in particular is finding some really interesting deep cut gems at the moment for the Trailers in Hell channel. I just started following him on Facebook because he does seem to have that weird sensibility, and he's the kind of guy who digs out things that people otherwise wouldn't know about. In fact, he's picked out a couple of movies that really are lost films, and all he could find was a trailer. Yeah, ME trailers in the 70s were a fun work of art. Yeah, there was a guy called Adolf Caesar who appeared in a few blaxploitation movies. He used to do all of the blaxploitation trailers in a really gangster voice. And of course, you've got Don LaFontaine, who went on to do the ones in the 80s and 90s. But yeah, trailers are an art. I know that Joe Dante and Alan Arkush, who went on to great fame after working for Roger Corman, cut their teeth on making trailers for Roger Corman movies. And yeah, it's an art form in itself. Finding enough of the film to make it interesting in a trailer, but not so much that you give away all of the interesting plot points, is an interesting way. Paul Charlesworth says, any trailers come to mind that were underwhelming, but the film turned out much better? No, the reverse seems more common. I think I saw the trailer for That's Adequate. I've mentioned That's Adequate on the channel before. But they tend to be, the ones that with the underwhelming trailers are the ones, usually, where they didn't have a lot of money to make the movie, let alone make a trailer. And so they did those kind of kooky things where they interviewed people outside theaters and had the fake interviews with people outside theaters talking about the movie. Those kind of trailers are underwhelming, but the movies are sometimes much better. Okay, what's my take on the Mechanic remake with Statham? Statham's I like Statham movies a lot. I think he's got a certain self-depreciation. The character seems to be taking himself seriously, but he isn't. But the Mechanic remake was just unnecessary. I like the original Charles Bronson and Jan Michael Vincent. I saw it a number of times at the cinema back in the day, in the 70s. And it works. And also Charles Bronson's character in that is a damaged, sick puppy. There's some really interesting scenes with him and a sex worker, which make it work and gives us a slightly different viewpoint on the cool assassin kind of trope. And it definitely shows his character as a real piece of work. Anthony Munn says, I used to love Anthony Caesar's voice on trailers from Dawn to Dead and Maniac. Yeah, I mean, Adolf Caesar was an interesting actor. And yeah, those kind of exploitation film trailer voiceovers were a lot of fun. They don't do voiceovers in trailers much anymore, which is a bit of a shame because it gives voice actors a bit of a go. But these days, it tends to all be kind of quick cuts at the start of the trailer with that kind of booming Christopher Nolan thing. It goes, oh, and then I'll show another bit of the trailer and go, oh. Jay Trump says, I hate unnecessary remakes. I don't think any remake is really necessary. My go-to for remakes of work is the Maltese Falcon, which was, I think, the third version of that film. The 1941 Maltese Falcon, directed by John Huston, was the third version of Dashiell Hammett's book, and it's the one that nails it. Grant says, yeah, still locked down. Yeah, we are. Or we kind of expanded the lockdown a bit, 25-kilometre radius, and you still got to wear masks outside, but you can go outside for any particular reason. Before that, they had 5 reasons you had to go outside: food, medical stuff, getting vaccinated, and a couple of other reasons, essential workers, and one other reason. But hopefully by next Thursday, the restrictions will lift, and we'll be able to wander around as we want to. What state? David Rayner says, "What state is accent supposed to be?" I think he's Cockney, isn't he? Yeah. Emmy says, "Yeah, it's winter. It is winter. The sun hasn't risen yet. The sky's only just starting to get bright here, and it's 7:16 in the morning." Yeah, we don't get winters kind of like a lot of European countries in the northern hemisphere get. But for us, and for the way houses are designed, and for the way we're designed, it's quite cold. One of the interesting things too is that I was talking to my friend Michaela Simpson in Darwin, which is up in the tropics, top of Australia, and they were complaining that it was getting cold for them when it got to 25 degrees centigrade in the middle of the day, and people were wearing jumpers. Human beings are climatized to a crazy range of temperatures, and people in the tropics start putting on jumpers and Ugg boots when a temperature drops to around 20 degrees centigrade. Jay Thomas says, speaking of Houston, what's your opinion of his Moby Dick? I think it's far and away the best. I like it. I particularly like Orson Welles as the chaplain doing the speech on that pulpit shaped like the bow of a ship. That's a magic piece of cinema. Just that little bit of it is really magical. David Renner says, he sounds like more Australian than the movie Statham. No, he's not. Doesn't sound anything like Australian. I'll tell you a story about the Australian accent. I was in Seattle once upon a time when the world was young in about 1998. I was in Seattle and we're wandering around looking at the sights, and some random woman walked up to me and said, "What part of England are you from?" And I said, "Just south of New Guinea." And she didn't get it, but a lot of people around me did, and we had a great time with it. Grant McDonald says, like your Chinatown Two Jakes. Two Jakes was hated by the critics. Glad I saw your review. Yeah, the Two Jakes was crazily underrated, I think. And it's just a conclusion and a nice tying off of Jake Gitter's story. Yeah. 25 in Montreal and you're in shorts and t-shirt. Yeah, 25 is about my comfort zone. Anywhere from 25 to about 35 I'm okay with. After that, I've got to start taking precautions. But we get it up here. The hottest temperature I've had here since I moved to Melbourne in 1990 is around 45 degrees, and that is crazy. Your blood is the coldest thing around you when you're walking the streets. Lee says, growing up in the North American Deep South, the drive-in film theatre was a regular weekend place to be. Remember seeing some of the Hammer monster movies there. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Drive-ins we've still got a couple of drive-ins here in Melbourne. There's one, I think, in Coburg, and there's one down at Dandenong and one down at Dramana. Haven't been to any of them for a long time, but I really should do a drive-in visit. The fact that they're showing kind of ordinary movies for the most part at drive-ins these days. But they had a slight resurgence with the lockdowns and with COVID because social distancing is a little bit easier at a drive-in than it is in a cinema. So maybe I should go to the drive-in and do a video about going to the drive-in for the first time in a long time. That might be fun. Judge says, I remember watching the film Babe and thinking, why is it warm at Christmas? Didn't dawn on me. Yeah, well, no. For me, it's natural. I've always had warm Christmases, and I like it. Having a Christmas barbecue is great. You can hang out outside. Christmas parties are usually where people get sunburned here in Australia. And for us, it's totally natural. It is a lot of fun, and the social aspects are very much different because of that. You can have I've got some friends who've got quite a big yard, and they usually throw a big Christmas party with a couple of marquees and a couple of spit roasts, and yeah, it just seems natural and reasonable to us. Grant says, Legend of Boggy Creek was, for me, one of the most scariest movies I saw in the drive-in. I didn't particularly see scary movies at the drive-in. One of the things when I was a kid, just give me a sec. One of the things when I was a kid was there was a drive-in at Liverpool in New South Wales where I lived, just kind of southwestern suburbs of Sydney, and you could see the drive-in from the road pretty easily. So whenever they were showing kind of saucy R-rated movies with lots of nudity in them, you'd see a whole bunch of kids and cars pulling up outside the drive-in just to watch the bits with the tits, which was kind of funny. I think they've redesigned drive-ins to a certain extent to make them a little less accessible visually, but a lot of people did that back in the day, and it was kind of unnecessary anyway because they were showing pretty much the same movies at the local cinema I went to. The Regal in Liverpool was showing the kind of movies you saw in drive-ins because it was an independent cinema. It was running on a shoestring, and they tended to get the movies that were cheaper from the distributors. And so I never saw an A picture, really. I did see a few. I saw things like there was a school excursion when I was a little kid to see Mary Poppins. So those A pictures turned up occasionally. But I didn't really see an A quality picture in a cinema. Oh, my mum took me to see one once when I was very, very young. But for the most part, I was B movies and exploitation movies. And those movies were a lot of fun for me and were very formative in the way I approach movies, these right to this very day. Okay, time for another box set. This one I picked up only recently because I wanted one of the movies. You ever done that? You buy a box set of different films just because you want one of the movies? And this one I got, it's got The Alligator People, The Cabinet of Caligari, which is the 1962 one with Glynis Johns and Dan O'Herlihy. It's got The Fly, which I've got another one, and a movie called House of the Damned from 1963. I kind of like this. It's a 20th Century Fox one. Not too many extras and things like that in it. But if you haven't seen The Cabinet of Caligari with Glynis Johns, it's got a script by Robert Bloch, who wrote Psycho. And it really is an interesting little B picture. I've actually got the Daybill movie poster for that one. Grant says, last movie I saw in the drive was Terminator 2 about 20 years ago. Classic, yeah. It is. Those groundbreaking special effects blew me away at the time when I first saw Terminator 2. Not particularly a fan of many of the movies since then. I think that there's a phenomenon where you're milking the cash cow until it turns into beef jerky. And I think that that's very much what happened with the Terminator franchise and a number of other really high-profile franchises. There's a point at which the story and the characters in the world give diminishing returns to an audience. There are always going to be the fanboys who squeal at anything remotely related to a particular franchise. But I've always had this idea that I want to see new stories. I want to see different stories. I want to see stuff that hasn't happened before. And that kind of works for me. By the way, I'll put this up there. There we go. John Pereira says, the only movie I remember watching in drive-in, Warlords of Atlantis. I saw Warlords of Atlantis. Isn't it odd that you can remember decades and decades later where you saw a particular movie? Saw this one at Manly Beach in Sydney, right on the waterfront. There was a cinema on the waterfront. Warlords of Atlantis with Doug McClure and Sid Charisse in it. And I think Daniel Massey as well. Paul Charles said, do I like Targets with Karloff? I haven't seen Targets for a long time. It's kind of been on my mental list to rewatch. I think it was one of Karloff's best movies, not just in his later career, but best Karloff movies. And I really like it. Anyway, he says, maybe do a video comparing the two Caligari films. I kind of don't know whether I want to do that because I think they're two totally different movies. And there's limited value in a silent movie from 1922, I think it is, being compared to 1962. I don't think that particularly works. And it's not a direction I kind of want to go in. But it may well be worth doing one about the 62 Caligari because it's a hidden gem, and the channel is very much about hidden gems. The way it's evolved, it's very much a channel of hidden gems. Grant McDonald says, why did the Psycho movies not carry on or ground to a halt? Because you didn't need to make sequels, basically. I don't think we needed to know any more about Norman Bates than we did in the Hitchcock movie. And again, it was a studio cashing in on an intellectual property. Jason says, born in 1952, I had all kids' TV was going to the movies, no home video. Used to scan the TV guide each week to see if favourite films were being shown. It's so much better now. Absolutely. Accessibility is great. And waiting 2 or 3 years for a movie you like to come on TV and then the one of the tubes in your TV blows out just as the movie comes on was a real nasty thing. Wolfman's Got Nard says, Sherlock Holmes, Robert Downey Jr. one, dreadful trailer, surprisingly fun film. It is a fun film. Both of the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes films are fun. I don't know how much they're Sherlock Holmes and how much they are loved by Sherlock Holmes fans. But as period action films, they kind of work. Conan 23, Terminator 2 alternate happy ending in a pub would have been a perfect way to end the series. No need for anything past it. Yeah, probably. I think that's a kind of fitting conclusion to the story arc for Sarah Connor. And yeah, the newer ones, it's more about the special effects than it is about anything else. And I think that's definitely a mistake because the special effects should serve as a story. They shouldn't replace story. Marcus Love says, Target's had to be a few Blue release coming soon. Oh, that'd be great. I may well look into getting that one. Yeah, I remember this happening. I used to go to ask Grandma if we could spend the night watching her TV. Yeah, I kind of had a tough childhood with a lot of violence in it. But one of the things that was a virtue from that was my father would get drunk and pass out on Saturday nights, so me and my little brother could stay up really late to watch the horror movies. And also my uncles, Roy and John, who lived with my grandparents when I was a very young kid, would let me watch things like The Outer Limits and horror movies. And they were very much the people who introduced me to the cool stuff as far as genre cinema is concerned. Okay, let's move on to another box set. This one I'm going to do a movie from this box set. Lee Brunk says, true story, Howard Hughes bought a house on Star Island in Miami. Suddenly a local low-power TV station started running old movies all night without commercials. Howard Hughes was the reason. Well, yeah, cool. That reminds me, whilst travelling through the bottom part of Western Australia, I was driving through there once upon a time. And there was a local radio station that did a similar thing to the Howard Hughes thing. And between 12 noon and 1 p.m. each weekday, the local radio station was sold a block of their time to a local businessman of some kind. And he would just sit in the studio there and play old Al Jolson records for an hour. And it was totally kind of off-grid for the format of the radio station. But for the 2 or 3 days we were travelling around that part of Western Australia, down around Albany and Esperance, you could hear this radio station at 12 o'clock. They'd say, this hour is brought to you by blah, blah, blah. And they would play wall-to-wall Al Jolson records for an hour in the middle of the day. Let's have a look. Nice Australian box set of The Outer Limits, Psychonas 23. Yeah, I've got that. I like the original Outer Limits. I'm less in love with the 1990s version, but I really do love the original Outer Limits. Even though it was a Monster of the Week kind of format, I think the writing was there. And there's some really amazingly good television acting as well by some pretty well-known names in that. This one I picked up cheaply. It's an MGM one. 4 sci-fi classics. I like this box set a lot, and I'm going to be doing one of these movies for the channel. The Man from Planet X, Beyond the Time Barrier, The Time Travelers, and Angry Red Planet, which is a crazy movie. So one of these is coming up in a fairly, not too long from now, episode of Terry Talks Movies. And I'm looking forward to doing that one because it's been requested for the channel and I wanted to revisit it as well. But yeah, this is a nice, cheap, no frills box set. And yeah, it is good. Oops, didn't hear the music. Great. So Australia must be a perfect place to have a drive-in. Might be wrong. Might have changed a lot since the 1970s. I think the climate's kind of good for it in most places north of Melbourne. But yeah, the economics don't particularly work for drive-ins because of a number of reasons, particularly home video and things like that. But I did go to a number of different drive-ins. I went to one in Dubbo in the middle of New South Wales, which was showing us some really weird things. Like, it was in the 80s, so it was Slumber Party Massacre and The Beach Girls. Yeah, it was kind of out in the sticks. And this drive-in, because it was just outside town and things like that, had a population of kind of cats. So everywhere around the drive-in, there were these cats who'd come and bludge food off you when you were at the drive-in at night time. And they were friendly and they'd let you pat them. But they were just basically semi-feral cats who lived at the drive-in. They never got hit by the cars because they're always nimble little buggers. But yeah, there was this weird cat owned. It seemed like the cats owned the drive-in. It felt like that for very much. And I used to go there a couple of times with some friends when I was living in Dubbo for 6 months. And country drive-ins I like a lot. Country drive-ins have also been a source of a lot of movie posters. So as old Australian movie posters came out on the market, people found them in kind of warehouses where people had warehoused all the stuff from old drive-ins in country towns. So they're very much a good resource there. And I'm tempted to buy some of those hanging speakers from a drive-in and get a pole and just stick it in the backyard and then run a Bluetooth through it so that I've got a old driving kind of speaker system in the backyard. If I had the money, I'd probably do it. It'd be a groovy look. And, of course, you'd have to waterproof it and all that kind of thing. I've got a couple of Bluetooth speakers in the backyard. But it'd be nice to have a couple of drive-in speakers hanging on those poles around the backyard and just kind of playing music. I think that'd be a cool thing for a movie buff to have. Let's have a look. Moving on. Just checking through these ones. Sorry, my throat's a little rough today. Yeah, by the way, I'm getting my second COVID jab on Monday. So I'm quite looking forward to that and looking forward to getting the superpowers you get with COVID vaccination. Anybody else got any questions? I'm going to do another box set that I like. But before I do, I'm just going to refresh the screen a little bit and see if there are any other questions that people have. Let's see. Okay, this box set I picked up because I wanted a couple of the movies. Now it's on. Lee Lavery says, get my second jab in a couple of weeks. Good. The more the better. We got to get that thing done. It's going to be an ongoing thing, of course, with COVID as it evolves. We're going to have to get annual vaccinations for it. But, it's a minor thing to have civilization back. But anyway, this is a US Warner Brothers release, the Homefront Collection, which has got 3 movies I like. Actually, 2 I like and 1 I haven't watched yet. There's Irving Berlin's This Is the Army. I'll get to your question in a moment, Michael. This is the Army, which has got Ronald Reagan in it for some godforsaken reason. But very thin. But the movies I like in this are Anybody seen this one? Thank Your Lucky Stars. It's kind of like a wartime musical with Eddie Cantor, but it's got a whole bunch of Warner Brothers stars doing things they don't usually do. You've got Humphrey Bogart in there, Cuddle Sakal, Errol Flynn singing, John Garfield singing, Olivia de Havilland, Betty Davis is in there singing, George Tobias, Ida Lupino, Dennis Morgan, Ann Sheridan, Alexa Smith, Alan Hale, Everett Horton. It's a little bit of a hidden gem. I may well do a video about that one because I like Thank You Lucky Stars. And it is a good film. The other one, which has got a whole bunch of other stars in it, is kind of a companion piece, Hollywood Canteen, about the kind of nightclub they opened for service people in Hollywood during World War II. And that one's a lot of fun as well. There's just so many interesting films that came out during the war as propaganda pieces and to boost people up and to get them to buy war bonds and things like that. So the Homefront collection is an interesting little DVD box set that I picked up, not too expensively. It's an American one, so it's region locked, but I don't mind because I've got multi-region players for my system. Okay, got a few comments here. Michael Williams, why didn't I like the 1990s Outer Limits? I think it was hit and miss. I think there were a few good stories in there and some good acting, but I think it was a little kind of self-conscious rather than leaning into the craziness of what it is. Paul Charlesworth says, how many hours a week do you spend watching movies? Never really thought about it. I do have once a week I've got to watch a movie for the ABC radio gig that I do in the Northern Territory in Darwin and 1.4 million square kilometres of Australia, where I talk about one movie with the national broadcaster. So I watch one, I'll watch 3 or 4 others as well. Probably 10 or 15 hours. If I'm doing a kind of compilation for the YouTube channel, I may watch 3 or 4 or even 5 movies in a day so I can make notes on them and kind of discuss them on the channel. And yeah, so it's not something I've got the time to do it, and it's a passion of mine, so I do it. Joe Trump says, agree about the Outer Limits. When the episode The Architects of Fear was initially broadcast, local stations blacked out the scene with the monster out of concern it was too grotesque. Yeah, I think that you got to let people have safe scares in life, even kids. You got to let kids have movies that are safe scares for them because it teaches them how to handle fear. Pigmeat Market says, got my second jab a week ago, 1 week left to maximum immunity. Good. More the merrier. I'm really happy about that. Marcus Love says, got my second jab on Tuesday and now leap tall buildings with a single bound. Yeah, but man, Marcus, watch out for that kryptonite, dude. Icona 23. What box sets do you have with great packaging and extras and special features? Which companies do you think are the best for box sets? It seems to me that Indicator does a great job. Indicator is really good. Let's see. There's a few of them actually. From the UK, Arrow Video does a really great job. The BFI ones and Eureka in the UK, and an Australian company that's an up-and-comer, which is, I've forgotten the name of it, Imprint. I've got a couple of movies from Imprint I'm going to talk about before we finish the live stream. And Imprint is a fantastically good content provider with tons of extras. It really is an up-and-comer, and it really gets into some hidden gems. It's put out a bunch of movies that I like and a couple that I thought, hey, I'm going to give that one a go. And because it's an Australian company, I don't have to pay the premium you have for exchange rates and things like that for overseas movies. D-Lee says, I really like your videos on remakes. I'd say there's a difference between straight remakes of previous films and new adaptations of the same source, like the Coen Brothers' True Grit. Yeah, absolutely. I think that remaking a movie rather than reinterpreting a novel is very much a different thing. And I think that you've got to look to the motive for doing it. Some people do it to cash in on intellectual property, but other people do it because circumstances have changed and technology and also censorship restrictions dropping have enabled people to tell a story more truthfully than has been the case in the past. Might be a sec. Tank NDG says, watch the day. I think that's the day you could fire. Loved it. Any recommendations? Similar things. Well-written disaster movies. Big fan. Thanks, Montreal, Canada. There are a whole bunch of different things. Let's see. Off the top of my head, I can do a video about them, but there are just so many ones. There's a really interesting one Ray Milland did, which is a little bit of a kind of proto-prepper movie called Panic in Year Zero, which I'd recommend because it's just harsh and gritty and so deeply wrong-headed. And it really leans into the Cold War paranoia that was very prevalent. Panic in Year Zero will probably be the one I'd do to answer that. Dilly says, the Coen's True Grit was said to have been closer to the book than the Henry Hathaway film with John Wayne. From what I understand it is, I haven't read the book, but it seems more novelistic in a sense and less catering to the stars, which is always a nice thing. Story is more important than stars always. Me says, that's a great radio gig you have. How did I get the job? I'll tell you in a sec. Here's how I've got the job doing the radio. By the way, because it is a national broadcaster, I don't get paid for it, but I do get a lot of love. I was Facebook friends with a guy called Shannon Marinko who did a brief TV show talking about movies. And Shannon said, there's a guy in Darwin who wants to have somebody come onto the radio and talk about old movies. Now, it's not particularly my thing. Do you want this guy to call you? And I said, yeah, I'll give it a go. I was working at the time and I wanted something outside work that was interesting for me. And I'd already been doing podcasts. And Shannon said, good, he's going to call you this evening. So I talked to Ivor Cole, who's also an artist. He was running the evening shifts at ABC Northern Territory at the time. Fantastic musicologist. There's anything about mid-20th century popular music, Ivor was a guy to go to. Still is. And so we started out doing that about 14 years ago. And ever since then, as things have changed with the evening presenters, I've continued to do the movie stuff. I've gone through about 5 different presenters now. At the moment, I'm doing it with Michaela Simpson. I did it with Liz Travascus. I did it with Rebecca McLaren, a bunch of other people. And, I just pick a movie. We watch it. We talk about it for half an hour. And it's a lot of fun. It's a nice intellectual exercise as well. And it's a good discipline, trying to keep things varied. Sometimes I'm out of my comfort zone with the movie. Sometimes they're very much in my kind of comfort zone. But it's a lovely thing to have. And I'm contributing to the government-owned broadcaster, which is really under siege from our federal government at the moment. And so if I can give them some content and help and be a part of keeping our kind of publicly owned radio stations going and network, television, radio, streaming services, if I can be a tiny part of that, I'm very happy to do it. So I enjoyed it a lot, and the people I work with are fantastic there. The ABC presenters do amazing work. 5 hours of content, 5 nights a week, and sometimes they have a producer and sometimes they don't. That's a hell of a thing to ask. Murdersville says, have you ever seen Night of the Eagle, a.k.a. Burn Witch Burn? Peter Wingard, let's say you had an interesting career. Yeah, Burn Witch Burn is great. Night of the Eagle. I've got a copy of it up in the back room. Yeah, it does a lot with not very much, and it does some interesting special effects using more imagination than technology. I like Peter Wingard. I was a big fan of Jason King when I was a kid. I even bought a cravat. But Peter Wingard, interesting career. Yeah, he was one of those actors who suffered for his sexuality as an actor. I think he was an interesting guy. He was very good in The Innocents, the Deborah Carr movie from the early 60s. Did Burn Witch Burn. Did a number of other things, but mostly he was in character roles. But I definitely like Peter Wingard, and I definitely like Night of the Eagle, based on a novel by Fritz Leiber, I think. Day Zero. Hi, thank you. Great, thanks for being here. Graham McDonald says, if you still have a VHS player, lots of movies that didn't get transferred to DVD can be found in flea markets in Canada. I don't have a VHS player at the moment, and I'm probably not inclined to get one. I do have some access to a whole bunch of VHS, let's say subterranean versions of things that aren't available by other means. And I've actually got a few VHS tapes that I've retained for various reasons, but I haven't been able to play them for a few years. It's a. Should I get a VHS player? Should I not get a VHS player? If one turns up somewhere in an op shop or something like that, I might be tempted to buy it. But at this stage, I'd have to make sure it was a multi-region VHS player, and they're a little harder to find in this part of the world. Let's see. Ever seen the movie Bug or Heatwave from the 1970s? I've seen Bug. It's pretty bad, but it's really. It's a William Castle movie, so I'll always give it a go. Let's see. Desire says, Terry, I just found out your YouTube reloaded Threads. Any opinions? Haven't actually had the guts to watch Threads. I hear it's a hard watch. So I'm I used to like apocalypses a lot more when I was young enough to think I could survive one. But now that I'm older, I'm kind of less inclined to go, okay, I'm going to watch that. Yeah, I could do that. Yeah, I could do that. No, I couldn't. Let's see. Wolfman's got Nards. Rival Sherlock Holmes TV, weekly dramatizations of Holmesian contemporaries, cash-ins from the Edwardian era. I've got that on DVD, the Rivals of Sherlock Holmes. If people can find the box set of the Rivals of Sherlock Holmes, get it. It really is interesting. They've got people like Donald Pleasance, a whole bunch of really good English character actors in the 1970s, telling the stories of alternative detectives from the Edwardian era. Really is a nice little set. And Middle-Aged Geek Girl's here morning, or in case people don't know, Middle-Aged Geek Girl is my wife, Sally. And lots of love to her because she got up early for me to do this. Let's see. Paul Charles will say, remember when Threads was first broadcast on the BBC? Sobering, absolutely. Yep. Saw the upload of Threads uncut and unaltered. Do you remember it being that grotesque? Haven't seen it, unfortunately. And Middle-Aged Good Girl says, no, I should not get a VHS player. Well, if you can buy diamond paintings, I can buy a VHS player. Joe Trim says, I recall my wife and I buying our first VHS player in 1984. Cost us $550. I paid $700 for my first one back in the 1980s. And I remember in 1988, I went to America and I came back with an enormous sports bag full of VHS tapes. I was so glad when movie formats got smaller. Okay, on with the box sets. Another drink. This one everybody should have in their collection. No arguments about that. Lee Lavery says, have I seen the 2017 film Ghost Stories? Pretty good psychological horror. No, but I'm going to write that down when I find my pen. But anyway, this box set you should all have in your collection. Blu-ray set, I think it's fairly cheap in most markets these days. The Universal Monsters Essential set, which has got Dracula, Frankenstein, the Mummy, the Invisible Man, Wolfman, Phantom of the Opera, Creature from the Black Lagoon, and Bride of Frankenstein. And with a ton of bonus features for each one, including the Spanish version of Dracula, which was filmed back-to-back with the 1931 Dracula. They filmed the Spanish version at night. And from what I've seen of it, I haven't watched all of it, from what I've seen of it, it's better than the Bela Lugosi version. Really a nice box set, this one. It's got some cards in it. It's got a booklet. It really is an unusually good compilation of all of these. and I'm glad I got it. I also got a box set of all the different. I also got all the box set of all the different Frankenstein movies that Universal did. It's a separate box set of Blu-rays, but I picked that up fairly cheaply as well. And I'm glad I got that as well. It's even got Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, which I'm kind of pleased about. Though Abbott and Costello movies aren't these days a particular favourite of mine. They're on TV a lot when I was a kid and I watched them, particularly things like Follow That Ghost, I kind of liked. And maybe I should pick them up and just try them again at some stage. Dilly says, DVD player to VHS player. Now you know how Betamax felt. Yeah, there was also that other HD format that was going up against DVD. So the Betamax war continued. Middle-aged Geek Girl says, we had a Betamax when she was a kid. Believe it was a superior format. At every opportunity, Middle-aged Geek Girl will tell you about her Betamax when she was a kid. Microsoft says, if you could have any box set with money, no object, what would it be? Criterion Godzilla and the original Wong Kar-wai. I'm really looking forward to the Eurocrypt of Christopher Lee, which is all the European horror movies Christopher Lee did in the 1960s, including a TV series he did in Europe. So the Eurocrypt of Christopher Lee is one I'm saving my pennies for because it looks really good, and the extras on it look superb. And they found some really good original negatives and original prints, and so all of the kind of lower rate obscure Christopher Lee movies from the 1960s that were made in Europe are now available in a box set. I really want to get that one. That's the one box set I'm really looking forward to. Grant McDonald says, Monsters, very good. Universal controls a lot of the monsters according to Vampire after watching her doc on Tubi. Yeah, they can control some of them, but the thing is the original intellectual properties are in the public domain, so anybody can have a go at them. A lot of people do and don't do it very well. Yeah, the Universal horror movies I like. I think they would have been so much better had the production code not come in, because there were a couple of horror movies at the front end, like Dracula and Frankenstein, which was showing a really interesting aesthetic that couldn't continue because of the censorship restrictions of the production code. Lee Lovery says, you guys should watch Techmo's channel, a treasure trove of obscure audio and video formats. Yeah, I do watch some of Techmo's videos. And yeah, there are some really weird off-the-cuff formats for things, audio and video. And I'm hitting the microphone. I shouldn't do that. So the Universal box set, like a lot, everybody should have it in their collection. And dip into it now and then and just enjoy the distant past. Okay. Doing all this talking, I've got a post-nasal drip, so I get mucus down the back of my throat. So if I'm coughing a lot, it's not COVID. It's just a medical condition I have. Middle-aged kid girl says, I hope Disney doesn't get the grubby hands on Universal Monsters. No, Universal is definitely its own studio. Mr. DeGenzi says, movie box sets. I got a few sets of my favorite movies, but I don't know if I've got one or two already. Also, I have the Herzog Kinski and Werner Herzog sets. Nice haul. I'd be interested in those, but again, it's a matter of money. Grant McDonald says, original King Kong was ultra-violent before code. Absolutely. He says, have I seen Loki yet? It's a lot like Rick and Morty. Yeah, it is. But, yeah, I'm still kind of sitting on the fence with Loki. I've seen the first step. And it's got potential, but I think the first ep of things like The Falcon and the Winter Soldier are a lot stronger and really lean into it, and also WandaVision. But we'll see how we go with Loki. I don't want it to just be kind of Tom Hiddleston fan service. But I'm willing to see where it goes, and it does lead into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So I'm looking forward to that. Stephen Shuttleworth says, can you recommend any Australian television shows which are relatively unknown in US viewers that are available on DVD and Blu-ray? Yeah, but you're going to have to get two movies as well. These are recent contemporary ones, and they are extremely good. First, get a movie called Mystery Road from about 2017. Stars, I've gone blank, but Aaron Patterson. and it's a kind of modern noir western with an indigenous protagonist. A guy called, and let me see, gone totally blank. But anyway, get Mystery Road, then get the sequel Goldstone, which is also really good. And then there are 2 seasons of a Mystery Road TV series starring the same character. And all of them are really good. The 2 seasons of the series is 1 story per season that goes over numerous episodes. If you haven't been able to get a copy, you haven't seen Mystery Road and Goldstone and the Mystery Road TV series, that would be my recommendation. Really fine stuff. Beautiful location shooting, some interesting drone shots used to inform the story and give you a sense of place. And yeah, it is just a beautiful way of telling stories. And Ivan Sen, the guy who directed both of the movies, is an Indigenous man himself, and it really does give you a realistic view of particularly outback Australian life as it is in the 21st century. Delay says, I think Universal can control their versions of Frankenstein, but obviously not the original IP. So the one with the bolts and the big boots is theirs. Yeah, but I don't think that anybody's going to go there. They did try that Universal Dark Universe thing, but then they made the Mummy movie with Tom Cruise where they let his ego run the show, and that totally killed that potential of a franchise. $7, $20. Thanks for your work. Thank you very much, $7. You're now my favorite person until somebody else contributes. Stephen Sheller, thank you. I'll look forward to. Yeah, please. Let me know what you think as well, because I want to see what people from other countries think of it. They're movies that really need close watching, and they're not particularly fast paced, but they're character driven. There's also one, if you get a chance to see this Australian movie, which is 2020-21 film called The Dry, Thedry, starring Eric Bana. That's another kind of country crime Australian movie that I really appreciate. It's really some of Eric Bana's best work, and it's filmed up in Horsham, up in northwestern Victoria here. And I've been to Horsham on a few day drives, and it's flat, dry country. It's wheatland, and the movie is really well done. It's one of my favourite films I saw for the first time this year. There are just so many good Australian films that don't really get a lot of play and tell people a lot about who we are as a people. And they do it in a way that's not kind of polished. It's very much kind of warts and all Australia. Yeah, Super Chats get quotes. Thank you very much, middle-aged Geek Girl. $7, your quote is, and I'll see if people can work out which movie this is from. Let me just have a drink of water, and I will give you your movie quote. $7. Let's see if anybody knows where this movie quote's from. It's a deep cut. There are a lot of nice guys at the bottom, Harold. Only cream and bastards rise. If you don't get it in 5 minutes, I'll tell you which movie that quote is from. It's a good crime movie that people should see more often. Let's see. So we're almost an hour into this, so I probably should do some more box sets. Yeah, let's do some crime. Crime's good. These ones, I've only seen 2 of these movies, and they're both crazy good crime dramas from the 1970s. This is the Fernando de Leon Crime Collection, which is crazily good. It's got Caliber 9, The Italian Connection, The Boss, and Rulers of the City. They're Italian crime dramas in Italian, but there's one, The Italian Connection, which is La Mala Ordina, which is crazily good. It stars Mario Adolf as a guy called Luca Canali, who's a minor league pimp in regional Italian city, who comes up against mafia big bosses. And a couple of assassins are sent to kill him. American assassins, played by Henry Silva and Woody Strode, come to the city and try to take out Luca Canali. Now, Canali is a force of nature, and Mario Adolf is great. There are so many good action scenes in that film. It is balls to the wall action. It's brutal. It's fast paced. It's got some really great chase sequences in it. If you haven't seen The Italian Connection, you should, and then go on to the other ones. There's two. I've seen Caliber 9 as well, which also has Mario Adolf in it. But Rulers of the City, which has got Jack Palance in it, and The Boss with Henry Silva, Richard Conti in it, I haven't seen yet. But these Italian Eurocrime dramas are just totally off the bloody charts. They are fantastically good pieces of 1970s action cinema, which people should check out. Leah Browning says, The Bad and Beautiful, one of my favourite movies, absolutely. And I also like 2 Weeks in Another Town, which is the kind of sequel that was made 10 years later with the same director, Vincente Minnelli, and the same star, Kirk Douglas. I like The Bad and the Beautiful a lot. Marcus Love says, I thought Sweet Country was one of the best outback westerns I've seen. Haven't seen Sweet Country yet. It's on my list, but I kind of go down rabbit holes and miss out on some things. Grant McDonald says, Ghost Rider would be a better if it was an Australian-produced movie with Aussie cast than US cast and production was terrible. Yeah, Ghost Rider was filmed around here. There are bits of it that are filmed like 10 minutes drive from here, which is kind of interesting. There were a couple of, knowing the other Nicolas Cage movie was filmed around here too. If you've seen the Nicolas Cage movie Knowing, the big car crash at the end of that film was filmed about 3 kilometres from my house. D. Lee says, not particularly coldish, but Sunday Too Far Away is a bloody classic. Absolutely. Jack Thompson, all about the shearers in the outback and the shearer strike. It is a classic. It really is one of those movies that tells people the better qualities of being an Australian. And Grant McDonald, Jack Palance was a very underrated actor. Yeah, Grant, one of my favourite Jack Palance movies is The Big Knife, which is about Hollywood. It's also got Ida Lupino and Rod Steiger in it. If you're a film buff and you haven't seen The Big Knife and you like movies about Hollywood, that one is a definite recommend from me. Diazeria, your favourite person until someone else contributes. Terry, you're a naughty boy. I thought we were all your favourites. You are. I was just saying that to be nice. But, yeah, absolutely. But, I can say that in a joking way, but whether you contribute or not, it really is welcome that you're part of the live stream. Marcus, I watched Under Too Far Away recently. I thought it was really good, but I'd like to see a longer cut shown at Cannes. Probably lost, unfortunately. Yeah, retaining the original negatives of Australian films is difficult. One of my favourite Australian films is a thing called Goodbye Paradise from 1983. And putting together the DVD version that came out by, I think, Umbrella Entertainment was a monumental task. It was a really difficult thing to get a watchable copy of it out because the originals were kind of lost. This area, Jack Palance was a voice that launched a million nightmares for me, at least. Well, for me, it was Donald Trump, but I can understand Jack Palance being your one. But anyway, moving on with the box sets, definitely that one, the Fernando de Leo collection. It'll introduce you to the rabbit hole of Eurocrime. By the way, there is a Eurocrime documentary, which I think may be on Tubi. I could be wrong. It could be on one other platform. But you should check that one out as well. Really an interesting collection there. And when I'm in the mood for a bit of biff, it's a good one for me to go to. So let's see what else we've got. Dip back into some horror. Oh, yeah, middle-aged geek girls remind me of the movie quote reference, which is, there are a lot of nice guys at the bottom, Harold, only cream and bastards rise, is from Harper. 1966 Paul Newman movie written by William Goldman, who wrote The Princess Bride. Really a good crime drama from the 1960s. Brian Lindsay says, latest box set of release from Severin, the Eurocrypto of Christopher Lee is awesome. So is your YouTube channel. Thank you very much. I'm trying to find the Eurocrypt of Christopher Lee. It's on my list of movies to get, or collections to get, box sets. But speaking of which, this is an old one Studio Canal put out a while back. It's on DVD. Hammer Horror Resurrected. It's got Rasputin the Mad Monk, Plague of the Zombies, Frankenstein Created Woman, Quatermass in the Pit, The Vengeance of She, and To the Devil of Daughter. I've got some of these on Blu-rays more recently, but I still like this box set. It's really an awkward one in some ways because they're all kind of folded out into a folding format there. Not really any extras on them, but I like it tight. And let's see, which ones don't I have? Actually, to The Ventures of She and Rasputin the Mad Monk, I think, are the only two that I don't have on Blu-ray as well. But I like this Warner Brothers Studio Canal release of these. And at the time this came out, they weren't available in other ways. So I picked up the Hammer ones because I just couldn't find them anywhere else. Dear Zaria says, crying is my favorite genre, but honestly, I can listen to you read the ingredients off a cream of wheat box. You're just that interesting. Peace and love from America. Thank you very much. I do what I can. I try to help. Daniel Thron, Quatermass of the Pit is an all-time favorite of mine. Giant Glowing Devil gave me nightmares for years. It is a wonderful film. Let's see, James. Lee was based on a Ross MacDonald novel, and Hammer is gold grand. Joshua says, have you seen Bone Tomahawk? If you know what I'm referring to, that scene stayed with me for days. I don't usually get bothered by film scenes. Yeah, that's a really interesting kind of blend of horror and Western. Bone Tomahawk is good, and it shows what you can do on a relatively low budget if you have the right actors and the right story. Jack S says, I finally got all the Quatermass movies. Great. Enjoy it. They're fantastic. Okay, let's see. Nigel Neal wrote some marvelous stuff. He did. I've got one of the scripts. I think for Quatermass 2, there was a book of the script, which I picked up at a country town. They had a kind of small bookshop in a country town. And it was in the free books. So they were giving away books they couldn't sell. And right at the top of this pile of books in the basket was Quatermass in the Pit, 1950 script of the movie in book form. You really got to look around and just see what you can find when you're rummaging around country towns. Middle-aged Kid Girl says, Bone Tomahawk was awesome. Yeah, but you're a gory girl, aren't you? There are movies you really love with lots of gore in them. Middle-aged Kid Girl is also crazy about shark movies. She really is full on. And if you haven't, you should check out her channel. She occasionally has genre stuff in there as well as craft stuff. And she's cute as hell too. Yeah, Dan, I did get the script in book form, and I'm happy that I did. If you have a look at this shelf here, pointing up there and over there, most of those things are either novelizations of movies or the books upon which certain movies were based. So there's a lot of those around here in the man cave. Grant says, Wishmaster 1 and 2 wasn't too bad. Haven't seen them since VHS days. Should I watch them again? Yeah, Diazuria says, never seen Bone Tomahawk, but I'm actively searching for it. Yeah, definitely do that. Hi, Rob. How you doing? You're not too late. Whenever you turn up is okay, as long as the stream is still going. Yeah, let's see. I'm going to move on. I've actually got I've talked about this genre, but I haven't talked about all of these films yet. Now, let's see. Brian Lindsay says, I enjoyed your critique of Godzilla vs. Kong. Although I didn't like the film as much as you did, would have rather seen a remake of At the Earth's Core with modern effects. At the Earth's Core is a crazy movie. I like those Doug McClure Amicus movies. They're a lot of fun. D. Lee says, Bone Tomahawk was interesting. Might put some people off ever visiting Butchers again. And Jack says, 68-year-old geek here, lol. Yeah, just go with it. the new motto of the channel is "Don't die, keep watching." So that's how I'm going to do it. These ones were actually given to me by a friend of mine in Germany called Armin, who's a friend of the channel and also one of the Patreon supporters. He sent me these and a bunch of other things he thought I might like. They're the Edgar Wallace Crimi movies, which are really great. There's the Frog in the Mask, the Hexer, the Dog of Blackwood Castle. So these are original German ones with English subtitles. Crimi was a weird German short-lived genre where they adapted the English-based stories of Edgar Wallace in Germany. And they're in the 1960s. They had people like Gert Frober in it and Klaus Kinski and a whole bunch of other really interesting German actors in it. And they're kind of crime dramas. They've got a touch of giallo about them in some ways, but they're a lot of fun. I've actually got 2 editions of this, 2 volumes of it. This one's got The Falsche von London, which I think is Dead Eyes of London, The Guest House, and the Something, and The Zinker. These I enjoy watching now and then because I really like the crazy formats. Some of them in black and white, some of them in beautiful saturated color. And they've got kind of weird murders and police detectives trying to investigate these weird murders, all done in different ways. So the Edgar Wallace Crimi movies are a lot of fun. And if you haven't dipped into Crimi and you've got the opportunity, you should check them out. Let's have a look here. Donald Trump, I don't think there's anyone on the face of the planet in Ontario, Argent, Rome, Gorisi Soul, directly could encapsulate that horror. Yeah, I'm staying off politics for this particular live stream because it attracts trolls. It's like leaving meat out on the counter when you need to thaw it out. Either a dog will get it or the flies will get it. Brian Lindsay says, last Crimi flicks are poorly represented in North America. Very few release here. Unfortunately, yeah. My advice is always to get multi-region DVD and Blu-ray players when you can. Fortunately, here in Australia, we get them fairly cheaply. I can pick up a multi-region Blu-ray player for $100 Australian just by going down to my local shops. And I've actually got a couple stored in case they stop making them. But let's see. Area. I love the early stop-motion horror movies. One of my favorites is Fiend Without a Face. That was unintentionally hilarious. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Harryhausen as well. I saw all the Harryhausen movies when I was a kid, and they are always a lot of fun. Jason and the Argonauts with Nigel Neal playing Hercules and all that kind of stuff, and the Dragon's Teeth Warriors. All of those kind of movies are just really great. One of the movies I'm looking forward to getting a copy of is a George Pell film, The Wonderful World of the Brothers Grimm, which has got a really interesting dragon in it apart from anything else. And I want to find a Blu-ray copy of Tom Thumb, the other George Pell movie I'm looking for at the moment. So is it time for me to do the Actor of the Week? Let me know, because I've actually written a script for this one. And I've got a show and tell for this actor's work as well. Jason, how about the 1933 Hedy Lamarr film Ecstasy? First caught in the 70s on TV about 5 a.m. Yeah, Hedy Lamarr naked in a movie. That was interesting. Jackass says, I found the Complete Invaders TV series on DVD, and the season was 20. This one, the season was 26 episodes. Yeah, absolutely. Interesting thing. So, is it time for Actor of the Week? Let me know, because I've got all this stuff ready for it. Or I could do another box set. I've got 2 more box sets to pop up here. And I will drink the last of my coffee before it gets too cold. Okay, so we're doing Actor of the Week. Now, I'm going to stop looking at the camera because I've got my script up here. Just clear my throat, won't be a sec. Okay, Actor of the Week is, drum roll, Stanley Baker. Stanley Baker, English actor, Welsh actor, I apologise, Welsh actor. He was born the son of a coal miner in Glamorgan in Wales. He did his national service in the late 1940s and then spent most of the 50s either as a supporting character actor in film and television or on stage. He did a really good, from what I hear, Petruchio in Taming of the Shrew on television. In 1955, he was in the television version of Nigel Neal's Creature, which they later filmed as The Abominable Snowman, but they didn't have Stanley Baker in at the time. He had supporting roles in The Cruel Sea, A Hill on Korea, where he co-starred with, get this, Michael Caine, Stephen Boyd, and Robert Shaw. And in 1953, he played Sir Mordred in Knights of the Round Table for MGM. But it wasn't until 1957 that he got his starring role that made his career in a tight little action thriller called Hell Drivers. Now, if you haven't seen Hell Drivers, you need to see this film. This is a release by Madman here in Australia. It stars Stanley Baker. You're going to love the cast. It stars Stanley Baker, Patrick McGowan, Herbert Lom, and a Scottish milkman called Sean Connery. It's a really tight little film, a really gritty working class drama. If you haven't seen this one, you should really check it out. It's also got some extras in it. It's got interview with Stanley Baker in the 1960s, a few other bits and pieces. Not a bad little release, this one. I'm quite pleased with it. He kind of became a leading man after Hell Drivers. And he did it at a pivotal point in British cinema. He wasn't an upper-class style of actor like Dirk Bogarde, who was playing romantic leads at the time. Stuart Granger, James Mason, Leslie Howard. His characters were tougher, working or middle-class guys who got things done. There was a kind of unpolished directness about Baker and other actors who emerged from the British film industry in the 50s. It was just before the angry young men and the tough, no bullshit. Before the angry young men, and these guys were tough, no bullshit actors who had a bit of muscle tone and didn't speak with received pronunciation. There are so many of Stanley Baker's movies that I really like. Things like Violent Playground, Hell is a City, The Criminal, which I recommend. It's a Joseph Losey movie. Really tough crime drama set in a prison. Let's see, Guns of Navarone in the French style. He did a romantic thing with Gene Seberg in that one. He was in Zulu with Michael Caine. Sands of the Kalahari, which I should do a video about because this is one of the great action films of the 1960s, bar none. Really great action film with Stanley Baker in it. He was in Accident and Robbery. He did Perfect Friday with Ursula Andress. And he also did a giallo in the 1970s called, it was by Lucio Fulci, directed it, Lizard in a Woman's Skin, which I haven't watched yet, but it's gone to the top of my list because I really want to see that one. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. And he also did a Euro spy movie in 1972 that I really liked, called Innocent Bystanders, which also has Geraldine Chaplin, Donald Pleasance, and Dana Andrews in it. This is a hidden gem of spy movies. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. So Stanley Baker died of lung cancer in 1976 at the age of 48. He's a heavy smoker. He smoked cigars and cigarettes. Now, just to put that in perspective, he died at the same age that Jude Law, Idris Elba, and Ben Affleck are right now. Stanley Baker was a hell of an actor. He could play weak or strong characters. He could play heroes and villains. He could play upper class and dirt poor. And I really like him and his movies. So Stanley Baker is the actor of the week. Let's have a look here. I'm going back to so that's the actor of the week. So I'm going back to the comments and trying to respond. Don't die, keep watching is a brilliant tagline. I'm ready for actor of the week when you are, says Dan. Brian Lindsay says, shame about George Powell's last production, Dr. Savage and Man of Bronze. Terrific classic pulp character, but a terrible movie. Yeah, they camped it up way too much, and I don't think Ron Elo was a strong enough actor to play the role. But if it comes out on Blu-ray here in Australia, I'll pick up a copy of it anyway. Middle-aged Geek Girl says, Luna has joined me to hear Actor of the Week. Luna is our new kitten who is kind of manic as hell and then goes to sleep for a couple of hours. Really cute kitten. You've seen her on the channel before. Dark Gable 831. Do you think they will ever put the new Avengers out on Blu-ray? Possibly. It depends on who's got the rights and whether there's actually a hunger for it. I'm not sure. And it might be a bit of fun to see. D-Lee says, apropos nothing, I've seen the original custard pie fight ending of Dr. Strangelove when the BFI showed it after the film. Kubrick definitely made the right decision. Yeah, absolutely. And Grant says, excellent live stream, thank you. Dark Gable, Stanley Baker was a fantastic actor. Totally agree. Stanley Baker, the whistling detective in Fortune's Lizard and Woman's Skin. Okay, Brian, I'm going to have to watch that now, probably today. Murdersville says, Baker played absolute bastards and very good at it. Absolutely, I agree. Really liked the guy. Paul Charlesworth says, Hell Drivers is a great film. Trucks rattling down narrow lanes. Yeah, it's kind of gritty working class thriller. It really is a lot of fun. J-Tro says, looked up Hell Drivers. Cast includes one of my favorites, Peggy Cummings. Thank you, Terry. My pleasure. Let's have a look. Baker was also terrific in Hammer's Yesterday's Enemy. Haven't checked that out yet. I really should. It's one of the Hammers I haven't seen. Desaria says, Terry, have I seen a movie that was made in the 70s, 3 or 4, called Gargoyles? Had Keenan Wynn in it. Yeah, it's actually available on Tubi. Bernie Casey played one of the gargoyles. Cornell Wilde was in it as well. Haven't watched it for a while, but I really should check it out again. Agent X Channel says, heard rumors about a bloody and nude Hammer horror movies released for Japanese audiences. Allegedly locked up in the National Film Archive. Not sure. I know that there were what they call European cuts, where there were usually additions of a bit of nudity. And in some films, you can find the European cuts added as extras on them. I think that's in Devil Doll. If you can find the DVD of Devil Doll, there's a European cut part of that. So yeah, it's I'm sure there are people who collect those, and why not? Let's have a look here. Hell Drivers stars a ton of will go on to star in, including the future Bond, the future Doctor Who, number 6, and a pre-carry on Sid James. Sid James did so many great character roles in crime films in the 50s and early 60s. We're kind of paralleling his career in the carry-on movies. Say there's a lost Lon Chaney movie, London After Midnight. Seen a version of it done by TCM with nothing but production stills and original music. It was actually quite fascinating. Yeah, there's so many lost films, and that's the importance of that. Kind of underlines the importance of retaining media. Let's see. Finally got to see one of your live streams, Mr. London's groovy. Thank you, Mr. London. Live streams are challenging, but they're always rewarding for me. Brian Lizzie says, Yesterday's Enemy is a hell of a lot grittier than Sam Fuller's World War II Burma film Merrill's Marauders. Yeah, Sam Fuller. If you want the kind of definitive, cheap but well-made Sam Fuller war movie, The Steel Helmet is a really interesting film to check out. Forgive me using Dragon Speak technology, but my typing hand is in a cast right now. Been arm wrestling sailors again. Oh, hope you're healing nicely. Lee Brunning, Legend of Seven Golden Vampires had such a dual version. A DVD of the original film had a special version. Gonna have to check that out now. I haven't seen Legend of the Seven Vampires since I saw it in the cinema, I think. Might be to cough again. Mr. DS Gen Z, watched Hell Drivers last year in January 2020 and gave it an 8 score. Remember that time, everyone? D. says, saw Hell Drivers at the London Film Festival when Peggy Cummings spoke before screening. Sadly, she died in the following year. Yeah, she was also in Curse of the Demon, wasn't she? But yeah, Hell Drivers is just such a hidden gem. I may well have to do a video about that. Pygmy Market says, media is only good as long as the means to view it still exist. Yeah, absolutely. Digitize things and then put them out in a bunch of different formats and back up the media. At a small level, I have that myself. It's I've got 2 or 3 backups of all of the Terry Talks movies videos because I don't want to lose them. I can download them again from YouTube, but the quality is just a little bit less because of the compression they use. So I'm keeping the 4K originals I've got of everything, but the live streams. Live streams aren't put out in 4K, but everything else I'm backing up a lot. So I'm really keenly aware of the need to back up media. Peggy Cummings and Gun Crazy says, Jetrom, sexy as hell. Absolutely. You can say hell here, you don't have to use apostrophes. This area, if I like stop motion, and I know you do, have you seen Tony Randall and the Seven Faces of Dr. Lau? Yeah, absolutely. It's a really great film, and it also shows the range that Tony Randall had and very rarely used as an actor. And it's one of those movies that's got a kind of humane and humanitarian core about it. It really is about people being their best selves. And it's got that depth and that heart that you don't really expect from that kind of special effects heavy movie. It really is a hidden gem as well. Mr. Londell's, I have things coming on a Blu-ray collection. I was wondering if you know any other 1930s science fiction to complement it. There is a really weird little one called Just Imagine, if you can find a copy of that from the 1930s. Not too many, because science fiction wasn't particularly regarded well in the 30s, but Just Imagine is the one that comes to mind from about 1931, which has got a lot of interesting contemporary references, like all of the cars in the future in Just Imagine have Jewish names because Henry Ford, who ran the Ford Motor Company, was an anti-Semite, so all of the cars in the future have Jewish names. So yeah, it's a nice little weird movie. You should check out if you can. Mr. Genzi actually saw a few old movies that January. Maltese Falcon, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, Carry On Cleo. Did watch the last one on New Year's Eve, but I fell asleep in the middle of it. I like Carry On Cleo. It's cute. One last thing about Hell Drivers is that Patrick McGowan probably does the worst Irish accent ever perpetrated by someone who was actually Irish. Yeah, I think it was kind of getting a bit of the Marlon Brando mumbles about him when he did that one. But just the intensity of the acting kind of carries it. Okay, J-Tram, agree about Randall's Lau. His Merlin is great, but his hands had Parkinsonian tremors, yeah. And just the kind of heart in that movie is surprising. Have I seen any episodes of The Prisoner? Patrick McGowan scared the hell out of me when I was 8 years old. Love him so much. Yeah, I've got The Prisoner, and I've seen them. Actually, in 2004, Sal and I went to Port Merion and hung around there, and she got food poisoning there, which she will undoubtedly mention in the live stream here. And she kind of blames Port Merion for giving her food poisoning. Murdersville says, out of interest, does Australia have Saturday morning card cinema for kids? It was a big thing in the UK in the 60s and 70s. First time I saw Republic series like Captain Marvel. I want to do a video about all of the superhero serials as well, by the way. We had Saturday afternoon, so they started at 12 and went through to about 4:35. And our local cinema had them double features. And I got to see all sorts of weird films there. I got to see all the things that kids shouldn't see necessarily, like the Dean Martin, Matt Helm films, and the Trigon Factor with Stuart Granger, and all sorts of other weird and wonderful movies in these double features, along with things like Jason and the Argonauts and Valley of Gwangi, which is one of my favorites. Let's see. Have I seen Idaho Transfer? So it's 1973 eco-disaster film directed by Peter Fonda. Yeah, I think that it's kind of ordinary right up until that climax. The climax is pretty good. But Idaho Transfer, low budget, kind of weird looking, but I don't think it quite landed the feel of things. Tony Randall didn't have Parkinson's, unfortunately, at this area. The character did. Yeah, so middle-aged kid girl put in about Port Merion. Lee Lover says, Port Merion is local to me. Yeah, I like Port Merion. It's one of those kind of follies. It's a magnificent folly by the guy who built it, and hanging around there felt magical. Thoughts on 1934's The Black Cat? I think it's better than most of the classic Universal Monster Cycle. Definitely kinkier than most of the Universal Monster Cycle, absolutely. Haven't watched The Black Cat in a long time. Time for a drink. My brother on his 80th birthday sent for pay for. Your brother put a rover out. D. Lee says Tony Rand is one of the actors who did best work on stage, a regular fixture of the Tony Awards. Oh, absolutely. I think that typecasting is a horrible thing for actors of talent. It's useful for actors who have a limited range, but for people like Tony Randall, I would have liked to see him do more different things because I think that he definitely had the chops. Kevin Horton says, thank you for introducing me to Planet of the Vampires. Absolutely, Kevin, anytime. That's what the channel is about. Finding weird obscurities and steering people towards them because nobody can know everything. And now and then I find a movie that people really respond to. And I'll definitely put it out there. Hidden gems are becoming what the channel is known for. Dan Johnson, an award's named after him. No. Unearthly Strange Agent X channel. Absolutely. It's oddly weird, and I really like the fact that the director was a documentary filmmaker, so he gave it that kind of groundedness that really helped the movie through some of the more absurd bits of it. Let's see. I've got two more boxes, so I'm going to do the obvious one, then I'm going to do one that's a bit of a recommendation. This one I picked up in England in 2004, which things weren't available very much in DVD in Australia at the time. It was still a kind of early thing. The Amicus Collection, sorry I burped then. The Amicus Collection, which has Dr. Terror's House of Horror, The House of Drip Blood, and Now the Screaming Starts, The Beast Must Die, which is really interesting, and Asylum. And it's in a coffin-shaped box. You've got to love that. Coffin-shaped box opens up and all of the movies are there. Yeah, this one's... I've got Dr. Terror's House of Horrors now on Blu-ray, but that Amicus box set is beautiful packaging and very early for that kind of packaging as well. Doesn't necessarily sit well on the shelf with the other stuff, but all those anthology horror films plus The Beast Must Die, which I should add to the list of things to do. Really a nice little package, that one. So I'm quite glad I've got that. Let's see. Chinatown episode. Love Faye Dunaway so much. She had that odd mix of classical grammar and being tough as nails, Rob. Yeah, absolutely. I think in the right role, she was incredibly good too. And in Chinatown, that vulnerability and toughness of other than Mulray worked. Brian Lindsay says, have you seen George Lazenby set on fire in The Man from Hong Kong? Lazenby was nuts. I saw The Man from Hong Kong in the cinema, in the State Cinema in Sydney. And some of the scenes of Jimmy Wong Yu climbing up the side of a building were filmed in the alley next to the cinema. So, yeah, I've seen it. I've got the Blu-ray. I've got the DVD as well. Man from Hong Kong was great because it was an action film. It was a Hong Kong action film in a sense. A kung fu movie at a time when I was really into kung fu. Filmed in my hometown where I could go and see the locations. So, yeah, absolutely. What do I think of Eyes Wide Shut? Didn't like it. I don't think Tom Cruise plays heterosexuals very well. Let's have a look. Yeah, did we get that in the UK, Middle Age Geek? Yeah, we did. It was one of the ones we dragged back from the UK in 2004. Let's see. Lazenby documentary, Becoming Bond, is great. Yeah, absolutely. I think he's got a good perspective on the fact that his career didn't go in a direction he wanted it to. And he's got that kind of world-weary acceptance of missed opportunities. And, yeah, I kind of like that about George Lazenby, the fact that he didn't whinge about it. He just got on with his life, and I think he's living in North Queensland now, if I recall correctly, and having a great time with it. Yeah, I think he grew up in Queanbeyan outside Canberra, which is where my estranged brother lives at the moment. Stanley Baker's also good in the otherwise pretty absurd Good Die Young. Haven't seen that one. Gerald Trump, yeah. Tom Cruise comment. I'll throw in little asides now and then that are a little bit dry like that. Ross Gordon, hey dude, thanks for many hidden gems. I recently watched your prison movie suggestions, added a couple to my list. I also watched Brute Force and was blown away by the quality. A real gem. Absolutely, Brute Force is tough as nails. Birdeswell said they did the Universal Monsters set in a coffin. Yeah, I bought it just because it looked cool. Also, the Universal horror movies, so you've got to like them for that as well. It's yeah, the box sets are an art form these days. So many of the good ones I'm getting have basically books with them and posters and all sorts of other things. The Fu Manchu box set, the Christopher Lee Fu Manchu box set, is a beautiful artifact apart from being full of movies. Jackass Kung Fu Hustle is always good for a laugh. Absolutely. I like Kung Fu movies before Bruce Lee died. That's how old I am. And I used to have to go to a very small Chinese cinema in Liverpool Street in Sydney. And one of the problems was they had English subtitles, so that wasn't the problem. Problem was that the English subtitles were white. And whenever there was a white background, you couldn't read the subtitles. But I saw a lot of things like the One-Armed Boxer and all of those kind of, that era of Kung Fu films at the Chinese cinema, which I don't even think had a name, which was in Liverpool Street in Sydney, and just above Chinatown. Not there anymore. The whole building's not there anymore. But it really was the birth of my love of Kung Fu movies. House Drip Blood is great. I got to meet John Pert where you started it. Okay, cool. Over here he was a nice guy. Barry Murphy says, hi, have you seen the US show Coronet Blue? Only lasted 13 episodes, but they're all on YouTube, which reminds me a bit about The Prisoner and well worth watching. Yeah, written by Larry Cohen. I did an episode of Terry Talks Movies about the career of Larry Cohen. I watched Coronet Blue, but even the episodes that were made were shown very patchily here in Australia, so I may well have to visit the YouTube channel where they're showing at the moment. And Larry Cohen, if you have a look at King Cohen, the documentary he did about it, there is a section where he talks about the resolution to Coronet Blue as well. Brian Lindsay, favorite Christopher Lee Hammer Dracula film? He did one with Hazel Court. I think Dracula's Risen from the Grave. With no, it wasn't Hazel Court. It was Barbara Shelley. I liked that one because he was a feral animal, but also very sensual in that. So that was kind of good. Gerald Trump said, I thought the Bruce Lee scene Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was absolutely hilarious. Yeah, it was. Tarantino is doing a book of the movie. He's actually written a novel which expands Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I'm looking forward to getting a copy of that. I may well even just get a flesh and blood copy instead of a Kindle edition when it comes out. It'll be interesting to see more of the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood universe. So if people are so inclined, keep your eyes open for the one Quentin Tarantino novel that's about to come out. I only see Lee's more famous ones like The Big Boss, Fist of Fury, and that other one. Awesome stuff. Yeah, I kind of like all of the Bruce Lee movies. They really are good. And I like the fact that he beats the shit out and kills Chuck Norris, because I never liked Chuck Norris. Delete characters in white shirts are the bane of subtitle films. It wasn't necessarily just white shirts. They had whole white rooms in some of those movies. But the fact that they were putting it out there and there were kind of very rough subtitles did give us access to films that we wouldn't have seen otherwise. It expanded my knowledge of cinema, because all of the movies I watched were either dubbed versions of European films or American and British films, with occasional Australian ones. So expanding into other realms and other language groups was a real eye-opener for me. Jackie Chan, really young Jackie Chan was Bruce Lee's first movie, The Big Boss, just letting you all know. He was also one of the extras in Enter the Dragon. Yeah. Thanks. Enjoyed Once Upon a Time more than any other films in a long time. I'm a big Tarantino fan. I saw them all as they came out, and I'll continue to do so. He says he's only going to do one more movie. We will wait and see. I don't know whether that's true or not, and I know that making a movie is a 2-year enterprise for anybody, on that kind of scale. So I can understand why somebody doesn't want to do it forever. Brian Lindsay, most unintentionally hilarious kung fu flick is called The Challenge of the Tiger, starring Bruce Lee with an I and Richard Harrison. And Joshua says, Norris is an a-hole. Yeah, well, that's the impression I'm getting from the guy. Yeah, okay, middle-aged kid girl, we know you don't like Tarantino. And I'm not going to take you to any more Tarantino movies. I'm going to go see them with somebody else. Yeah, Tarantino wants to make a Star Trek film. Yeah, why not? I mean, we need a Star Trek film with a lot of blood and guts in it and swearing. Um, though I think Star Trek Disco's done pretty much all of that stuff already. But Tarantino, I like. I like the fact that he remixes things. Yeah, there's that problem with the City of Fire and Reservoir Dogs, but I think he's redeemed himself since then. Um, yeah, Mr. ZS Gen Z, I want to make a Star Trek movie too. I'm kind of happy with what's happening with Picard and Star Trek Disco. I kind of like that. And yeah, the film series, the Kelvin verse, it's called, the new rebooted alternate timeline Star Trek series. I think I've had enough of that. I think that the TV or the streaming series that are coming out more than make up for that. Tarantino wants to make a Star Trek film with language and nudity. I'd love to be in the theater with a bunch of gigs and save their reaction. Just go back to the theater for that one. Yeah, Star Trek Disco, Star Trek Discovery. It's called Star Trek Disco. But yeah, Picard season 2 is going to be interesting. I think that they're kind of good with the storytelling. They're not just doing fan service, even though there is a large aspect of fan service in Picard. I think that the stories carry it. Um, One of the problems with some other science fiction franchises is that it's all fan service and not anything that expands the universe. Jerry so 619. Can I do more of the live stream, please? I've enjoyed listening from work. Yeah, we'll be doing more of them. They don't tend to get a lot of views, so I'm kind of leaving them out along with other things. And some people like the live stream, some people like the more concise content. So I've got to kind of balance it too. But I like live streams because I like the challenge of doing a live stream. I like the fact that I've got to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, start at 7, and then be on point for several hours. No, it wasn't Picard in a white Travolta suit. By the way, if you rewatch Saturday Night Fever, all of the guys in Saturday Night Fevers are real bastards. They're not redeemable at all. People remember the dance scenes, but they don't remember the fact that all of the characters are reprehensible. Yeah, Tarantino is a good way to discover films if you haven't seen when you track down all the films he references. Yeah, one of the nice things about Once Upon a Time in America, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is Tarantino made a list of the movies that influenced the career of Rick Dalton and informed him making that movie. Things like Arizona Raiders and a whole bunch of other films like that I wasn't aware of and were kind of just on the fringe of my awareness. And so anytime Tarantino says my movie is going to reference these films, it's always really interesting to find those films and watch them. Hey, Bob Becker 56, hello from Brimdale, Indiana. Hey, how you doing, man? Hope you're staying cool there. Inglourious Bastard did have Eli Roth in it. Yeah, I'm not that much a fan of Eli Roth, to be honest with you. Maybe all the guys in Saturday Night Fever were Scientologists. No, they were just Goombas. You have a T-shirt like mine? Cool. What's my favourite box set and the weirdest design for a box set I've seen? I don't know if there's any particularly weird designs, but my favourite box set, I think it's either the Hitchcock box set I've got or the John Cassavetes box set. I like both of those a lot. But as far as weirdly designed boxes, I think that having theme design boxes is cute sometimes, but I like the way companies like Indicator and Imprint do their box sets. They really are nicely designed and they're a lot of fun to just own and enjoy. So I'm going to go into the last box set now. Let's have a look and see what we've got. Ross Gilton, do I have a soft spot for Farscape since it's mostly Australian? Not that much, less so than other people did. It was a little too muppety for me. Dan Johnson, US $10. Appreciate your effort. Enjoy this content. Thank you. Thank you, Dan. I've got to give you a movie quote now. Let me think of a movie quote. Nobody will get this movie quote. They'll never pick where it comes from. I was sorry to see the rhubarb go. Something about it reminded me of human potential. Nobody's going to get that. So in 5 minutes, I will tell you where that movie quote comes from. Let's see. Christopher Lee's first movie was The Short Two-Hander, where he played a man confronting a theatrical agent responsibility for the death of his sister. The agent was Ferdy Mayne, another future vampire. Ferdy Mayne was a vampire in the Polanski one. I have two favorite reviewers. You're Steve Hayes. I like Steve Hayes a lot. A tired old queen at the movies. Really deep dives into some really old schlocky films at times. Lee Laverty says, yeah, I really couldn't get into Farscape. Yeah, I didn't like the protagonist. Brent Browder's protagonist, I never really got into much. Yep. So, Dan, in a couple of minutes, I'll tell you. Middle-aged Geek Girl, can you remind me to tell him where that quote comes from? Yeah, Steve Hayes rules. Yeah, I agree. Steve is great. Steve is out there. He's also a good theatrical actor from everything I understand. The Event Horizon Collector's Edition is my second favorite, but Phantasm Silver Sphere is my favorite. Yeah, there were a lot of box sets that came out with toys in them and little artifacts based on the movies, but I never really got into them because they take up too much shelf space. But having said that, I don't mind some collectible toys. The other rooms are full of Funko Pops, very specifically kind of cold Funko Pops. Things like I got the new Shang-Chi one. I'm looking forward to that movie coming out too, the new Marvel movie, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Looking forward to that one. I didn't like Farscape when it was first broadcast in UK, but years later I gave it another go and loved it. Yeah, it depends on things. Swill and Grow, I'd love to see your analysis of Logan Run TV series. I think it was subpar, really. And by the way, it's Terry, not Terrence. If you want to check the passport, it says Terry. Yeah, Logan Run TV series, I never really liked it. I think it was just, running, escaping from things, running again, escaping from things, squibs with sparklers in them, all that kind of thing. Geeks always need toys. God doesn't. Yeah, one of the things I've got that I really like, there's a few. I've got two different versions of Astro Boy. One with some of the circuitry showing on the side of his face. And I've got 4 Chinese hopping vampire Funko Pops as well. Lee main film was called Crossroads from 1955. I had to check that out. That'll be interesting to watch, particularly if it's a short. It won't take too long. But he was also in other things. He was also he was in kind of almost a kind of extra role in a really interesting movie from 1952 called The Crimson Pirate with Burt Lancaster and Nick Cravat. The Crimson Pirate is a lot of fun. Really cool 1950s action film. Let's see what we got. So last box set, I suppose. There are hopping vampire Funko Pops. Yep, they're expensive, mate. You're gonna pay a premium for that one. But yeah, Zhangshi Funko Pops are great. I got a few Zhangshi movies as well. Highlight of my DVD collection is the Evil Dead Special Edition in a something. Dan, I'll wait for you to do the rest of it. But I'll do this last one box set. It's from Arrow Video, and this is a definite recommend from me. It is really great. Park Chan-wook's Vengeance Trilogy. If you haven't seen these movies, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, Old Boy, and um, Lady Vengeance. There's also something I haven't seen this one yet. Old Days. If you haven't seen these movies, they are mind blowers. These plots don't go anywhere near like. Don't see the Josh Brolin version of Old Boy that Spike Lee did. Check this one out. It is fantastic, and these three movies are thematically linked. South Korean films. If you haven't seen them, you really should. Arrow put out a really nice box of these ones, and I'm glad I've got them. They're very, very hard movies to watch because they're tough as guts and have some really interesting, weird twists about them. But you should have these movies in your collection. Middle-aged Geek Girl says, quote reference, and the quote is, I was sorry to see the rhubarb go. Something about it reminded me of human potential. That was from Goodbye Paradise, the 1983 Australian political comedy thriller with Ray Barrett. That movie is one, if you can find it, it is a great watch. Let's have a look. Crimson Pirate is a good double bill with the Flame in the Arrow. Absolutely. Burt Lancaster and Nick Cravath together. Dan Johnson says, Old Boy is awesome. How about this? Let's Henderson Vampirates. Honestly, God, that's what it's called. Okay, Vampirates I'm going to have to check out because that sounds really weird. Small Rock, am I a fan of Danger Diabolic? Absolutely. There is an imprint version of it out on Blu-ray, which is really great. I love the Morricone music. I like the Mario Bava aesthetic. I like the 2E-type Jags. I like Marissa Mel. I like John Philip Law in it. Danger Diabolic is 1960s cool at its peak. Let's have a look here. Got a few different. Well, I think my favourite set of Criterion Godzilla, the Showa era films, 1954 to 1975. Yeah, I could see that. It's outside my budget, but I've got the Showa era. There was Madman put them out here in Australia with not too many extras, but it was good to just see them all together. I did a 24-hour of Godzilla movies. I watched Godzilla movies for 24 hours in one of my older videos. Did you catch Pandora's Boxing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? The building that looked covered in a strip fumigation tent. It's a famous hippie hangout in the 1960s, but it was on Sunset Boulevard and not Vine. No, I didn't, Jerry, but that's a good call. Okay, Mr. Londo's Groovy Movies. What's your setup for enjoying movies? I've got an HD 55-inch TV. I don't have a 4K TV yet. I've got a Blu-ray player and an Xbox hooked up to them and a few hard drives hooked up for things that I've got on digital. And I don't have a particularly good sound system. I just use the speakers for the 55-inch TV. And it works for me. It's good enough given the size of the lounge room. And I just sit back and watch them, and usually with a notepad in my lap so that I can make notes on things. But yeah, it's not space age bachelor pad layout, but it kind of works for me. You might see a bit of it if you look at one of my 24-hour movie marathon videos. I've got a huge collection of vampire movies. Thank you for turning me on to these new ones, Terry. Now I have something to watch while I'm recuperating. Saw the original Old Boy, couldn't eat for a week. The vomit scenes were bad enough. I think the octopus scene is probably the one that got me. Murdersville says the Vengeance set is going cheap on Zavi right now. That's where I got mine from. Zavi is a great source of movies that I can't get otherwise here in Australia. I love fine filmmaking. I love mediocre filmmaking. When it comes to exceedingly bad filmmaking, I really love that too. Absolutely, yeah. Bad films teach you as much as good films about what makes a good film. Sometimes you can go, okay, they shouldn't really have done that. They might have done something different. Sometimes people are so close to their movies that they're making that they really can't see what goes wrong with them. And I'm a little bit of a fan of that quote about all movies being successful because they got made. I think making a feature film is an enormous enterprise. And a certain level of respect, whether it's high or low, but a certain level of respect has to be given to somebody who completes a film. You want to watch a movie right now? Assassination Nation 2018 just started in the UK. Not aware of it, but I'm willing to give anything a go. I've just got so much to watch and so little lifespan. Swilling Grog, I ordered that edition of Eyes Without a Face you recommended. So looking forward to it. Thanks for that, mate. My pleasure, Swilling Grog. I really like that film. I think that if you can get Franju's Judex as well, which I think got a Criterion edition, that's a beautiful looking black and white film with a very kind of steampunk aesthetic to it. Franju's films are just magical. Hi, Jeff. How you doing? Welcome to the club. Check us this. I'm still running on a Samsung 55-inch in 3D. Godzilla is available in 3D. And, yeah, 3D was a kind of passing fad in a sense. I never thought that most 3D movies added enough to make the technology worthwhile. I kind of like the 1950s 3D ones where they throw things at the screen. That's kind of cute in its own way. But it's not a game changer. Middle-aged kid girl says, even Uwe Boll. Yeah, at a certain level, even Uwe Boll is successful at getting a movie completed. Above that, all things are off. Jerry, I love your 1950s hidden gems, but I thought Kiss Me Deadly had to be on that list, mate. Kiss Me Deadly, yeah, I could do that, but the thing is that I've got to kind of winnow out. There's just so many movies. There's so many hidden gems and things. And I'm sticking from now on to 3 hidden gems per video because I don't want to run out of them anytime in the future. And I'll get to talk in a little more detail about each of the films if I don't rush through 5 of them while making a video. So there are lots of films that are on the list for hidden gems. I want to do a hidden gems of Australian movies, one of the ones I want to do in the future. So yeah, hidden gems really do add a lot, and people tell me hidden gems as well. People send comments and steer me in directions of things I didn't know about. So we kind of got an ecosystem going between us of hidden gem movies. Let's see. All contemporary 3D movies did for me was giving me a headache. There was a trick to the modern 3D movies, which was you kind of got to focus in the mid-distance when you're watching them and not try to focus on every single aspect of that's popping out of the 3D screen. There's a real art to watching those ones, and to be honest with you, it wasn't always worth it. Dilly, I have all the Toho Godzillas except for Godzilla vs. Megalon and Godzilla's Revenge because even I have limits. Yeah, I mean, I've got the Showa era ones and also some of the other ones that Mad Men put out here in Australia. Doing 24 hours of Godzilla movies did my head in, to be honest. I watched so many of them. I went right from the original Gangster Godzilla in 1954 onwards, skipping the Raymond Burr one. And it started grating, about 20 hours in, it started grating on my nerves every time I heard Godzilla scream. It's a really weird thing. $7 says, hey, guy, upvote the thing. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, $7. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, so that's it's Godzilla movies I like, but I probably can't watch any for a couple of years, except for the new ones that come out. Classic Godzilla movies, doing 24 hours of them was a definite head spin. I am going to do another 24-hour movie marathon at some stage in the future. I'm tempted to do James Bond films, but that's a little mainstream for the channel. I may well do some box sets as parts of 24 hours. Who knows? Still kind of deciding on that. Let's see what else we got. Oh yeah, got to show you the stuff I bought recently. Anybody want to see the stuff I've seen? The remake of 13 Gas was supposed to be in 3 days, but they dropped it at the last minute. You can tell. Great Aussie film, Waking Fright and Bad Boy Bubby. Yeah, I haven't seen Bad Boy Bubby for a long time, but I have seen Waking Fright. And we've actually visited Silverton, the town where they filmed Waking Fright. And it is that flat and that bleak. Do Brava. What's Brava? Anyway, here's what I bought lately, and I haven't watched all of these. I watched a couple of them. I've seen some of them before. But there's three three imprint movies, an Arrow and a Eureka. Can I recommend any other Mario Bava science fiction films? Kaltiki, the Immortal Monster, would be the other one I'd go with, which is one of his earlier ones. Really has a nice vibe. If you're looking at horror, I think Black Sabbath and Black Sunday would be the ones to go to. But just go to Wikipedia and look through his filmography. Anything you find by Bava is going to be at least interesting. Okay, so here's what I've got lately. This is the haul I've got lately. This is a Russian science fiction movie which was remade about a few years ago. But this is the original one. Excuse me, I just have a drink. Okay, here's the haul. V, which is kind of a horror movie. In 19th century Russia, a seminary student is forced to spend 3 nights with the corpse of a beautiful young witch. But when she rises from the dead to seduce him, it will summon a nightmare of fear, desire, and the ultimate demonic mayhem. This is a Russian film. I've heard good things about it. I haven't seen it. I know very little about it, but there's a lot of extras on this one as well. But I've heard good things about V, and I want to see it. Solaris, I like the original Solaris. I don't like the remake as much. This one, I don't know much about, but my friend Grant Watson, who is an expert on Asian cinema, recommended this one for me. It's a corporate satire about a bunch of admin in a confectionery factory in Japan, and it's called Giants and Toys. How's that for a cover? Is that the coolest cover you've seen in a while? It was made by Day, and it's got a whole bunch of extras in it. I'm dipping into this one cold, but I just bought it off Zavi for the cover and because my friend Grant recommended it to me. By the way, if you go to fictionmachine.com, Grant's reviews are there, and he is incredibly knowledgeable and incredibly on point with things. But yeah, I'm going to dip into that one. Now, these ones are the imprint ones I've got lately. Oh, Bava, sorry, yeah. I should do more Bava, I really think, in the future. This one I watched the other day. It's an imprint version of it, which has got a few extras in it. It's not a long film, and it's definitely a B picture from the 1940s. The Face Behind the Mask, Peter Lorre. Peter Lorre plays a Hungarian immigrant that comes to America, and he's optimistic. He wants to build a future. And he gets a kind of flophouse room in New York, and there's a fire in the house, and he gets disfigured and turns to a life of crime because nobody will hire him with a disfigured face. This is a tight little thriller, directed by Robert Florey, who helped work on the original 1931 or the 1931 version of Frankenstein. This I enjoyed a lot. It's got a really killer ending, really a hidden gem that Imprint have come out with, and it is a high recommend from me. I'm not going to tell you much about it because you've got to go in this cult, but Peter Lorre is really good in this one. And it also has Evelyn Keyes playing a blind woman with whom he starts a relationship. Really, really, really good film. Hi, Mark. How you doing? Murdersville says, a couple of underrated 1970s British films, Sitting Target and The Squeeze, hidden gems maybe. Don't recall them offhand, but I will look them up after the live stream. Let's see. This one is a high recommend for me. I haven't seen it for a while, but it's really great satire on 1960s America. The President's Analyst with James Coburn, which is a groovy 60s movie in every way. It's got Seven Darting, Godfrey Cambridge. Really nice little monologue by Godfrey Cambridge near the start of the movie. Directed by Ted Flicker. Lalo Schifrin did the music. If you haven't seen The President's Analyst, do yourself a favor and get the imprint version of it. It is really cool. There are so many cool 1960s James Coburn movies. There's Duffy, there's the Flint movies. Want to do the Flint movies in a future video as well. Thanks Nixon 68, yeah. Yeah, President's Analyst. Looking forward to doing that. There are a few extras in there as well. There's Tim Lucas does the audio commentary. Kim Newman also talks about it as well. Looking forward to rewatching that one as well. Yeah, President's Analyst does have a new tang to it, given recent history. Let's see, Jerry saw Series 1 of Chopper Squad. It was cool. Shows how cool Sydney was in the 70s, but I can't find Season 2. Do I have it? No, I'm not sure it came out on any kind of media. Yeah, I actually knew somebody who was an extra in that once. But yeah, Chopper Squad, there were a whole bunch of different crime series in Australia that came out, produced by Hector Crawford. And Crawfords have the rights to them, and they occasionally release little bits of them, but at crazy premium prices because they're holding onto their intellectual property, and they just don't know how to release it in any way that people are going to respond to. Ever covered Elaine May? No, a New Leaf and things like that. I've got them. I've got some Elaine May movies, but I haven't really had to go with it. Definitely think the Ashura Honda movies and SF films could have influenced Jerry Anderson. Mysterians may have provided ideas for Captain Skull. Yeah. Have I seen Watermelon Man with Godfrey Cambridge? I don't know how well that ages. I think it's of its time. I've seen it a few years ago, but I like it as well. I think that's a real good satire on race in America at a certain time. So here's the last of the imprint ones that I've got. Haven't watched it. I don't even know if I've seen it, but it's recommended by a lot of people. James Caan in The Gambler. For $10,000, they break your arm. For $20,000, they break your legs. Axel Fried owes $44,000. Really interesting film, directed by Carol Wright. Written by James Toback. Also stars Paul Sorvino and Lauren Hutton. Really, I'm looking forward to watching that one because 1970s crime dramas. There are some hidden gems there, and James Caan at the time could be hit and miss, but in this one, I've been told it is really good. And Imprint have put it out very recently. Some Imprint movies I don't particularly want, but when I'm really engaged with it, I like it. And also, the interesting thing they do is they put the year it came out on the spine. If you look at the top of the spine there, it's got the year the movies were released. Haven't seen The Apprentice and Analyst since the early Cretaceous. Absolutely. It holds up well. It's still a good satire on corporate America and some of the obsessions that America had at the time. And it's a James Coburn movie, what's not to love? So I'm going to wind things up there. Are there any last-minute questions or anybody need a quote for doing a super chat? I'll give it about another 5 minutes because my throat is giving out and my stomach is rumbling, so I probably should eat something and rest my throat. So I'm just going to wait for the chat to refresh. And in the meantime, I'm going to be putting out another video on Wednesday and another one Saturday. Let's see, what do I want to do for Wednesday? Let me have a look at my content list. I might do some 1960s cult movies, hidden gems for next Wednesday. Middle-aged Geek Girl says, breakfast date. Yeah, absolutely. Let's go and have some breakfast after this. Let's get the hell out of here. President Allison, haven't seen it for it. Yeah, you should try to find it. If you can get the imprint version. They put out a lovely product. Anthony Munn says, V is definitely worth it. Thank you. I took it as a punt, and I do that occasionally. And the interesting thing is when you take a chance on movies like this, I'm running about 80% worthwhile. 20% is kind of meh. But when people recommend me things and when they're coming out in quality restorations with extras, I'm running about 80% positive on this, and that's really heartening. No, rest my throat, it means rest my throat. I don't need to piss. Yeah. Dan Johnson says, thanks for the live stream. Go rest your throat. I will. And thank you all for being a part of it. And thanks to the people who did super chats. Thanks to the people who asked questions. Hey, thanks, Jackass. Yeah, thanks to everybody. I will do more live streams, but this one, Corvette Summer, Jerry, 1970s Hidden Gems Part 2, it's a possibility. I don't know what I'm putting into that yet, but I do know that I will be doing more of them. Jeff, you can go back and watch the live stream. It'll be up as just a normal video on the channel afterwards. Yeah, thank you, Rob. I'm going to go, guys, and thanks for all of your support, and thanks for watching, and just the usual things. Don't die, keep watching, get the jab, and look after yourselves. Catch you later.